there are now, women are allowed to be sci-fi fans and to be geeks, and you have not been seen before and you have not seen yourself. And I know you're not as old as we are, but when you get here, you'll find it's nice to get to see yourself.
We had about a month before we shot anything, where we were just in stunt training, and we started from scratch. And I've still got videos of us from day one trying to do the 12 movements, and looking back, it's like, wow, were we that far away from where we got to? And
absolutely.
He's impatient for another question.
No, I'm not. You carry on. Talk away.
Both of you coming up.
Wake up,
Wake up.
Never trust a Harkonnen.
Sorceress!
The reckoning is coming.
Let it come.
So obviously so many people will be coming to Dune Prophecy off the back of the films, off of many of reading Frank Herbert's novels and the one that this show is based on. How would you say it expands that world?
Well, it kind of takes a dive into the world, sort of a look at the universe that is controlled by the Sisterhood. But it crosses the universe in many ways. They have a finger in many pies.
But it's the origins of the Bene Gesserit, and cracking open that mystery, and I think with great research by our brilliant writer Alison Chapka, she could not be more of an expert or even a geek on the subject of Dune, and what she's done with the Bene Gesserit myth is brilliant to kind of make it real and make it solid.
And to give and this family is, the series has a sense of this as an order and a powerful institute, but also these sisters as women from a truly, truly messed up background where they are full of trauma and vengeance and with many, many dark secrets to keep close.
All hidden behind a very handy veil so that you can't see what's going on.
Yes.
And, the power of what you can do sequestered from men, and convincing them that you can read their mind and tell where they're lying, which is a very powerful way.
Well, we are 10,000 years before. We're on different planets, and hopefully our show complements their world, and gives the already built-in audience something new to see in the wonderful world of the Dune universe. And I think that also, just not for fans, I think that the story is so intriguing and thought-provoking, or I think you don't have to be a fan to enjoy Dune Prophecy. You don't have to watch the movies and read the books.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was asked my elevator pitch, and I think it would
Bloody
be...
move there.
Yeah, anyway, so cheeky. I was asked the elevator pitch, and I think it's a bit like Handmaid's Tale crossed with The Sopranos set in space, so...
I say Jetsons on crack.
Anyway, but it's interesting because I think, it's the origin story of the Bene Gesserits. And for me, Charlotte Rampling's scene in the Denis Villeneuve films is so intriguing and fascinating. It kind of steals the show. So I was instantly intrigued and fascinated by that. And as Travis says, they are very different worlds. So I think there's so much that's new that's going to be really fascinating to fans, but also equally, you don't need to be a fan to enjoy it, I think.
Well, like the Dune... the Dune movies have done a great job of establishing what was in those books, right? But there are so many books and so many stories and so many plot lines to kind of pull from. And I think our show picks a real interesting period of time politically and what was going on. And, there will be names you recognize, there will be planets that they haven't seen before, there will be new things to see. But also, it gives us a chance to dive a little deeper into some of these characters and their history, their beliefs, and the origin of the Sisterhood is the kind of driving force through that, which is fascinating because they're some powerful women.
Yeah, and the feud between the Harkonnen and the Atreides.
Yeah, it's one of the through lines.
Yeah,
definitely.
As you say, particularly Valya, she is incredibly. She's sort of deeply troubled, I think you've said before. What did it take to get into that mindset and to kind of show the complexities of this character? Because there's a lot going on inside her head.
A kind of a key moment for me really is the fact that she has been kind of anointed by the head of the previous head of the Sisterhood. She was a very vulnerable and damaged young woman, and this woman has gone, I see you, you're very powerful, you're very special, and you are the chosen one. And that's a very dangerous thing to do, because then you think that the end justifies the means, and lots of bad things happen.
And similarly, I've been told we can go a little bit into spoilers for this one, just because I loved finding out a bit about Tula's backstory. Gosh, the things she's capable of.
But she hides it well, right?
She does. And so how did that kind of impact how you wanted to approach the character?
Well, I know it sounds trite, but that is the fun bit of acting. You know, when you say one thing and you mean another. That is, to me, what acting is. And I had a brilliant drama teacher who was old enough to be Prussian, and his great note was, Ducky, your subtext is showing. And, you know, Tula cannot afford for her subtext to be showing, be it when she's talking to her sister, be it when she's talking to Chloe Lee's character, sister, help me, Lila. When I'm talking to sister Lila, I cannot possibly let her know what is going on in my subtext.
Of course, Travis, in the early episodes and kind of throughout the show, we learn about Desmond's very intriguing and terrifying power. Can you tease a bit about what that may sort of consist of, and how dangerous he might be?
No, I enjoyed his power. Something different that you haven't seen on other shows. It's a mental. You can hurt people physically without actually touching them, which would be a great skill to have at school.
What can you say of how that's kind of used throughout the series?
Well, my character Desmond's got he's got a certain goal and something he's very driven by to achieve, and he'll use a lot of violence to achieve that goal, and he thinks it's justified in doing so. But at the same time, it really hurts him when he hurts other people physically. It hurts him physically and emotionally, but he sort of enjoys it. He won't stop doing it, you know.
Bit perverse.
Yes. S&M.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think for Natalia, you know, there's when Desmond arrives, that's an opportunity. She's an opportunist. So she really sees that as something to be used. But, you know, they're both outsiders, which I think is really interesting. They've both been in some way marginalised, and they both have a grievance. So, you know, how she is able to exert her influence from that point on becomes quite fascinating. And there's a certain kind of way in which, you know, there's an emotional violence there, I think. You know, that's already there with the Sisterhood, but I think it's also there with Empress Natalia, in that she's pretty ruthless, and it's it's a portrait of, you know, a very unconventional mother. And I think as an actor, that's so much more interesting to play when a character is that morally ambiguous, I think.
And she, of course, has her own aims, and I feel like the dynamic between her and the Emperor is so interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about the conversations you had with the writers about her, but also with Mark Strong about kind of your amazing dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always thought that they felt a little bit like the Romanovs in Russia at the turn of the century, you know, and that there's this Rasputin-like force, which I think Natalia sees the Sisterhood as being, and it's almost like she sees her husband as being over-dependent upon a bad psychiatrist, you know, and she sees the way that completely emasculates his capacity as a leadership, and she doesn't want to see her daughter go in the same direction. So, you know, those were fascinating dynamics to play with, and Mark is such an interesting character, and I think we both brought, you know, a bit of our sort of theatre background to that as well. So we were given quite a lot of freedom, I think, by, you know, Alison and Jordan to really, you know, breathe that into the scenes, which was great.
Yeah, that makes sense about you saying bringing your theatrical background too. I think that really comes across.
Yeah, but it's interesting, I think, because with characters like this, you know, the whole point of playing powerful characters is not to play the power, you know. So again, that's an interesting acting challenge, I guess.
Absolutely.
He's impatient for another question.
No, not you. Carry on. Talk away.
Both of you coming up.
Wake up.
What was it like for you taking on an Atreides? How much did you look to the films to kind of see where the house was going to go? To, you know, even look at Timothée Chalamet's Paul and see where that was going to go?
I mean, when I booked the job, the first thing I did was watch Dune again. You know, I went and watched part one, but it's an interesting one because we are so far removed. It really couldn't inform anything. I think one of the nice things is the fighting styles that we fight are the same, which is the Atreides house style. So like it's nice to have that in the show as like a kind of nod. But the Atreides are in a very different position, you know. So it's exciting to be able to bring a new Atreides to life and give that for the fans.
And Sarah Sophie, the princess, is such an interesting figure. I was interested in the ones I've seen. What can you tease about kind of how much she's willing to sacrifice almost for what she believes in?
Well, I think like one of many things that I love about the character is that she isn't afraid of fighting for what she believes in. So I think she, you know, that's just so her. So I feel like she will go far for what she believes in. Yeah.
And it's kind of set up that I love that the kind of powerful houses, it's made clear that they're not indestructible. What can you say about, you know, some of the dangers both of your houses might face in the season?
Well, I mean, when we meet the Carinos in the show, I mean, obviously the Emperor, he is the ruler of the known universe, but he's still very dependent on alliances between the other great houses. And when we start off in episode 1, I'm not going to give anything away, but you know there are some alliances that needs to be made in order for spies to be. There's some problem. Well, how do you?
He needs protection, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm Danish, so sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for you know Atreides, as I say, we're in a very different position, and I think going through the series, there's things that happen that, you know, take a lot away from a character, and I think one of the challenges for most characters in this show is being able to stay true to what you believe in from the start, and I think a lot of people can be turned and flipped and twisted, and you know, matters of the heart come to play as well, so it can be there's definitely a few interesting turns and conflicts for characters.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not what meets the eye. I think, you know, it's a lot of things will happen.
Both of you are going to be, we've sort of, the early episodes tease this threat to the Sisterhood. What can you say about the lengths that each of your characters will go to protect the Sisterhood, and what sort of threat they might be facing?
Well, it's an existential threat of destruction. And the point of it being that we don't know what we're facing. We can't work it out. We can't figure it out. And the sort of in the figuring out of it will start to tear us apart.
And there are victims to it. I mean, you know, I like to think that Tula's a brilliant scientist, but she has quite a lot of people die on the table. Spoiler alert.
In pursuit of
finding out. And you know, this virus, I don't know how spoiler I'm being, but anyway, this virus that creates fear, that's not such an extraordinary thing. We've seen it happen in society. You know, COVID created anxiety and fear and meant people didn't leave their environment. It had a sociological effect. And we now know
because
that
fear is the mind killer.
Fear is the mind killer. And we now know that the effect of bacteria in your gut can cause depression, can cause you to lose confidence, can cause you to change the course of your life. So, you know, Frank Herbert was on something.
And that scene that you've just reminded me of, where they're all drawing, and you know, you talk about sort of the fear that pervades them all in that moment. It's an absolutely chilling scene. It's amazing to watch.
I'm so happy you said that, because I had some
pretty terrifying,
very, very strong feelings about how that scene should unfold, because the depiction of hysteria in women and is such a troubled area that truth comes out of a form of feminine madness, and I just didn't want to perpetuate that myth. But there are some elements that of the power of these women that is still sort of rooted in misconceptions about women. But women do still have to run power from a sequestered place away from men behind a veil. You know, there is still, women cannot come out front and center and be president.
Was there, sorry, you said there was a way you wanted that scene to unfold. Was there something you wanted to avoid in there? Are you able to
I
tell me
didn't
more
want
about
it to end up being like Arthur Miller play. Somebody help me. The Crucible.
The Crucible.
I didn't want it to be women shaking and seeing the devil and it being some kind of hysteria. The word hysteria is based in the word for uterus. It's the same root of the word. And I wanted it to have a more muscular feel than a uterine one.
That's
Which it
amazing.
does.
Yeah, I think that would have made so much of a difference. And that's amazing. It sounds like there was such a collaborative sort of experience on that set. Emily, was that something you experienced as well?
Absolutely. One of the great pleasures for us of doing this show is that we had this gorgeous young company of actors and actresses who were, you know, a lot of raw, unformed talent there, and just being leaders and forming a company and making sure everyone was feeling seen and okay. You know, they were all away from home. Some of them had very small children with them, and you know, which is, you know, when we've been doing this as long as we have, you've got a lot of experience around how to manage all of that and how to find your space and find your moment and find the way to live in all of that, because everything's happening so quickly and there's a billion things going on at any one moment. And just to go, we are all together in this together. That was a really potent thing.
Acting on a long-form TV series can become a competitive sport, but not on this set.
I think as well, the thing of women often being pitted against each other, it's wonderful to see such a female-led show. As you
Lots
say,
of people have asked us, why have you never worked together before? And, well, we would have, but there's never, you know, there's rarely do you get a script that has two women in their 50s leading a show like this.
Talking to each other.
Amazing. I mean, we've got a long way to go for shows like this, I think. Only benefit us all.
Well, I also think, sorry, I know you're out of time, but, you know, there are now, women are allowed to be sci-fi fans and to be geeks, and you have not been seen before and you have not seen yourself, and I know you're not as old as we are, but when you get here, you'll find it's nice to get to see yourself.
I think the show proves that even the most powerful of houses aren't indestructible. What can you say of the danger that your house might be in?
I mean, it's, you know, one could waffle all day about this stuff, but I think it's really interesting, you know, that the stakes are really, you know, they're high at the end. And it is a general question about how does an empire survive when natural resources are scarce? And, you know, the original books were asking that question. You know, it creates all kinds of conflict and opportunity for power to be, you know, abused. So it's an endlessly fascinating subject that feels, you know, pretty zeitgeisty, I would say, especially, you know, with the advent of AI and the way that taps into, you know, this idea of techno-feudalism, of, you know, technology being in very few
beautiful
people's
lexicon. I love it.
control, you know. So I don't know. I find all of that stuff fascinating. Go on.
Yeah. No,
I'm dying
just
to say something.
I'm enjoying
I can
your
tell.
words. Very good. I'll just say, I sound like Trump's tremendous, fantastic. Anyway, sorry. I'm going to work on my lexicon.
When you were first reading the scripts, Travis, what were those kind of early conversations with the writers like about Desmond, and what was it like reading his scenes for the first time? Because they don't hold back straight away in episode 1, I feel like.
No, I didn't have that many chats with him, to be honest. Chats, if the writing's not great, and then I think that dictates how much you're going to chat about it to try to improve stuff. But I really enjoyed what I first read. I enjoyed the mystery of the characters and all the characters. Everybody's got their own voice, and especially I love some of the writing for the younger generation. You know, there's a heap of young girls that are it's like being in high school. Everybody's got their own little what music they like or whatever, their own voice, and I think there's somebody for every young person to latch on to. And then the mind games that happen in the adult world as well. Just it's just one great game of chess, but not as boring as chess.
I think most of the conversations were, you know, about our story and about the universe, of course, and if we have, you know, also backstory in terms of our characters to create a full character. And I think, like, for me, I when we were filming, I didn't think too much of the success of the films, because I just wanted to be there and in that bubble, completely trusting the creators of the show, Alison Schapker and her team. But now, closer to the release, you know, of course, you know, you hope that it will come out and people will love it, you know.
Yeah, I think it's also something you can't really prepare for.
Yeah.
You know, I think we turn up to work, right, and we're there to do the work, and the work is to do the job. This is the interesting side now, I suppose. We've never really been in this position before. People are asking that question a lot today, and it's kind of interesting to even ask ourselves it and be like, I don't know. We don't know, you know. We hope the show is successful, and that's step one, right?
Yeah.
We hope we have a successful show. It'd be great if we got to do a season 2, because I think there's a lot of story to tell.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot of fun.
You mentioned the fighting style a little bit. For both of you, what was it like getting into that, and how much, you know, training did you have to do?
We're very lucky, weren't we? You know, we had about a month before we shot anything, where we were just in stunt training, and we started from scratch. And I've still got videos of us from day one trying to do the 12 movements, and you know, looking back, it's like, wow, were we that far away from where we got to? And you know, the stunt people were really the team we had. They were fantastic and very patient with us, and we got to the place where we felt confident and safe with each other, which was really important. But it was also a really good bonding experience for me and Sarah Sophie. You know, obviously our characters have this arc, and you know, for us to spend so much time together, become friends, feel confident with each other, look out for each other when we needed to.
Yeah.
It was really nice to then bring that to set, and then finally get to do a scene together and realize she's brilliant. So I was like, okay, we're good, you know.
We're lucky, yeah.
Very lucky.
Yeah, it was just a joy. I mean, like, as Chris said, like, that month of training prior to filming and bonding, and just was just a gift to get, because it was, but you know, getting to know you, it's like, it's easy. He's talented, he's a beautiful person, so it was great. And I think a challenge, because personally, like, I've never done any like actions like that before, and yeah, so that was just a fun challenge and an extra layer for the characters. Yeah.